The Cats and the Zags. Max, this game is going to be excellent when we talk about one of the best non-conference games in the SEC this year. I'll let you set it up. Time, location, date, all that fun stuff.
All SEC fans can see this one. Do a nice early December weekend. Talking about Friday night, December 5th. Bridgestone Arena, Nashville. Come on. Little SEC tournament pregame there. Get to Nashville, watch the Cats and the Zags. The odds on this one are going to change because both teams play a ton of games before, so I'm not even going to go into the Torvik, predictive odds or anything. But, Blake, do you remember? See, there it is. We can break off in a song anytime, guys. Do you remember the last year matchup, overtime, 90-89? The odds closed in that one. I'm not sure what they were at FanDuel. They might have been this, but the odds closed that one. Gonzaga minus 6.5. Gonzaga was up 50-34 at halftime. ESPN gave them a win probability of 95%, and then the Cats stormed back. 90-89 overtime victory last year. Could there be another thriller on our hands, Blake? Could we be in for another barn burner? Who knows? But, man, this was a great one last year.
I hope so, because as I look back here on December the 8th, 2024, when we did a live stream titled Kentucky Stuns Gonzaga, we had 20,000 people watch this thing, 20,000 views on this bad boy. We had like 200 new subscribers out of that. So Kentucky fans, welcome after that one. That was such a huge. It was like, what a wild game that was. One of the wildest games of the season, without a doubt. But yeah, you're asking, could we get a repeat? Well, obviously, if you're looking at these two teams, if we look at the current national championship odds over at FanDuel, we do this every time we do these previews. Kentucky's still at plus 1,700, so they're right there tied for fourth. With Florida, they're behind Purdue, Houston, Duke, and UConn, which I think it may have been Nick earlier that asked why UConn keeps moving up. If we have a few seconds later, we'll address that. We do have to hop off before football starts, but we'll get into that. The Zags are plus 3,500 right now, so they're a little bit ahead of Tennessee and Auburn. Auburn's numbers, by the way, have not moved, but the Zags are a little bit behind Alabama and Arkansas. So that's where the Zags are at this point, but I think, again, when you just think about kind of the way this game sets up, I mean, Max, I still like it. I feel like it ties great into this discussion because I'm really excited. I know we're going to get to the front court matchup in a second, but just the backcourt matchup between these two groups, because this is the kind of game to me where, if you're saying keys to victory for Kentucky, I think it is kind of having that depth you can showcase at the guard position. Even if last year during this game, if you go back to it, the front court was actually, a big reason why Kentucky won this one last year. But I think just this matchup with those, 2 to 3 guard spots on the perimeter will tell us a lot about how this game plays out.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a new look Zag squad here. I'm using the Trilly Donovan Discord depth charts to make these visuals for you. You know what you're going to get in the front court with EK and Huff. That's going to be a really, really good front court pairing. Tyon Grant Foster still playing hoops, or is he? We don't know yet. Still waiting on his waiver. That would obviously have a huge impact on the front court depth. Steele Venters, former Eastern Washington legend, has been out for the past 2 years with injury. He is finally back. What level do we see from Venters after a full 2 years off? He would be kind of swapping in with Jalen Worley there at the 3 on the perimeter. And then you've got Mario Saint-Superi, a little international point guard that's going to be playing there at the 1 with ex-Patriot League Player of the Year. If you're not familiar with Braden Smith, it's because he didn't play last year, sat out the year. He's from Colgate, Player of the Year in the Patriot League. He's one of the best passers in the country. He's a classic. It's going to be like Nemhard Never Left with the creation and passing of Smith. So it's a different Gonzaga squad. They still have EK and Huff, but the backcourt Blake, pretty much all new faces.
So, Blue Ribbon College Basketball Yearbook has Gonzaga at 23 in their preseason top 25, and I think, yeah, like you said, it's a new look group, and as always, doesn't matter who it is, you're gonna give Mark Few the benefit of the doubt when it comes to putting together, I think, a roster that's going to have a chance to be pretty successful, just given the track record. And so, I mean, yeah, like to me, this is the kind of game where we talk about like the potential like breakout type guys on this Kentucky backcourt. And to me, that means we're talking like Denzel Aberdeen. Does he take that huge step forward? This can be the kind of, defining type game for him. Is this a Cam Williams game? What's a Jasper Johnson do? Like, and we mentioned like Colin Chandler. Like, is this the kind of game where it's just the depth? And so, like we said, I think rotations, it's just always trying to get a feel for what rotations are going to look like. That's something we don't know at the moment, but I look at that for me, and I'm like, to me, this is one of the storylines in this game is the Kentucky backcourt depth and how they rotate these guys. I just think they've got a lot of options to work with, and if they were to play the way they want to play, I think, to me, that gives them a bit of an advantage here just based on the matchup in the backcourt, just because, again, we talk about kind of the system that Kentucky runs and what they want to do offensively. I feel like they've got the pieces in place to be able to really kind of attack this Gonzaga team and see what they can do offensively there. So,
yeah, speaking about the front court, Ike went for 28 and 11 last year. Really had a
domination.
Really had a good game last year.
Yeah.
And when you're looking at Kentucky's big matchups before, they do have the exhibition against Purdue, where they'll see some great bigs, some of the best. And then you've got the big games for Kentucky before this Gonzaga game would be the Louisville game, where you'll see Sananda Frew, the Michigan State game, where you'll get that same front court as last year, and then you'll get North Carolina, Lubin, and those guys. I would still say Ike is going to be the best big up until this point that they will have seen. But then if you flip to Gonzaga, man, Mark Few really loaded up this Gonzaga non-conference more than I remember Gonzaga doing in previous years. They've got a game against Oklahoma, so they'll get a little SEC action. They'll get even some more SEC action when they play Alabama in the Players era. So they'll get 2 SEC games. Gonzaga also plays Creighton. They also play Maryland. They also play Arizona State. So I thought, before looking at the schedules, I was expecting to come out with a storyline of Kentucky's going to be more battle tested. But man, Blake, Mark Few really loaded up this Gonzaga non-conference.
Yeah, he did. And I think it's, again, I do feel like they have good depth. And this is where, look, we have the 5 on the screen, right? But I think the overall depth, too, is something that can't be understated with this Zags team because, too, one of the things that I know was mentioned in Blue Ribbon was like you have multiple guys who sat out last year.
Yeah.
But now that they are in the fold, hey, these are pretty talented guys. And also it's an older group. I think the stat I pulled from Blue Ribbon in their preview was they have 8 guys on the roster that are at least 21 years old. And so, again, Kentucky's an older team, too. But, like, this is still a group that, like I said, I feel like whatever you want to call it, Max, the mystique of the Zags in recent years, right? It's like people have kind of changed their perception a little bit, maybe because, you can say, well, they're not a number 1 seed every single season or whatever, but like, let's not kid ourselves. Like, this is still a team that, if you pull up the numbers, right? I mean, just the number of wins that they continue to accumulate, and some of these non-conference games especially, I think it's one where, look, they're usually very well prepared for these kind of games. And so I look at it and feel like, obviously, the Ike Huff duo, to me, is going to be a lot of fun to watch. And that's where I think if you're looking at it from Kentucky's standpoint, we said Brandon Garrison stepping into a bigger role. Mo D, our guy, this feels like one of those dirty work type games for our guy Mo D, where he may be the difference. Because last year you mentioned Ike had such a huge game. But, Andrew Carr, I feel like, was kind of the story of that, right? If I remember correctly, for Kentucky. What did Carr go? He had 19 in that one. Jackson Robinson finished with 18, but he had a big game. And so I think just kind of seeing how and Ike got to the free throw line 14 times in that game too last year. So, so I think it's one where location is also kind of.
Was just going to bring that up.
I'm a little excited about that. So I look forward to hopefully going to that one. It is in Nashville, and so I know the Zags fans are going to watch this and they're like, "Hey, we're coming to the game." I hope you got your tickets because there's going to be a lot of the Big Blue Nation traveling down not very far to this one. So yeah, I love the matchup, and I think there's a variety of factors here that could figure into the outcome. So.
And both teams have one major, not even like, oh, he would just be decent, one major question mark about if they're even going to play or not with Jaden Quaintance for the Kentucky front court. Man, would that put a different twist on the story with Ike and what he'll be able to do would just be massive. And then you have Tyon Grant Foster, who could play there with Huff. You could then, if Ike gets in foul trouble, it's not as big a deal. You can move Huff up. You can put Grant Foster at the 4. You could do games with Steele Venters and Grant Foster. So versatile, would be huge for a matchup against a versatile guy like Mo D if you can have Grant Foster giving you 20 minutes a game. So there's two major question marks in both front courts that we should have answered by the time we get there.
Yeah, I like that we're talking about this one, and I know it's early than most because this isn't played until December 5th, but this is one of those games where it's like, take whatever we say here with a grain of salt because we will know basically a month into the season who are going to be those top tier kind of contributors minute-wise for Kentucky. Maybe saying the same for the Zags, to be honest with you, because like I said, I think they've got depth that may be underrated by some people heading into the season. But yeah, I mean, it's, I think you've got two guys who can take over a game in different ways in Oweh and Ike. And so, yeah, I love the matchup, which shouldn't be a surprise. And I don't know if we're going to get the exact entertainment we got last year from that game. Kentucky fans are hoping it's not the exact same way playing out, being down 18 at any point. But, yeah, if JQ plays, I mean, it's Max, you and I might just have to live stream where it's like, you play video games and you can just pick a player to just set your, whatever on. We may just be focusing on JQ and Ike and just be like, I don't even care what else happens. Let's just watch these two. Because that would be stellar if that is kind of the matchup you get potentially.
One more thing that I've noticed, just kind of looking at the graphic here, there's not a single underclassman on either team's projected starting lineup. And the only way there would be if somehow Mario St. Superi slips into Gonzaga's starting lineup and he's an international, not even a natural high school freshman. These two teams are old.
Yeah, they are. And that's why, again, I love that stat. 21 years old, Gonzaga has 8 or more players, I guess, on their roster.
Grown
I mean, listen, I don't know the Kentucky ages off the top of my head. I'm sure we could come up with that same stat for the Cats, but yeah, this I tell you, now that I'm looking at this one, I'm like, I'm talking myself into this may be like a top 3 on the non-conference slate.
The over-under is going to be like 165.
Yeah, give it to me. They're in Nashville. I'll take it. So there you go. Some early thoughts on Kentucky and the Zags. We said this one's a little bit harder to kind of do a full in-depth early preview on just because it is further down the line than some of the other ones. And as we said, we'll know pretty much where both teams stand by that point based on the scheduling that Max talked about with both teams.